I'm Algenon Cash, and you're locked in. Welcome back. Another great episode for you today. Thank you all for joining me. Hope everyone's been having a terrific day. I've got a friend returning, BJ Murphy, CEO of Magic Mile Media. We're going to have him on today. But before we get into that conversation, just wanted to let you know, election 2020 has really officially come to an end here. Well, there's still a couple of races out there we're watching, like the Senate runoff down in Georgia, but the electoral colleges have met and they have certified that Joseph R. Biden is the president-elect, along with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. They should get sworn in January 20th. Of course, I know that so many of my friends and Trump supporters and so many more want to continue the fight, but it does seem like things have sort of wound to an end here, and we will be making a transition. And, I know so many people might be disappointed about the outcome, but what I'm mostly happy and excited about is, once again, we had a peaceful transfer of power in this country. So many people turned out to vote. 74 million people voted for Trump. Almost 80 million people voted for Biden. Certainly to some degree a polarizing election, but we did not wake up to see any tanks rolling through the streets and no one taking up arms and trying to take back the country, at least not yet. And so far, a nice peaceful transition of power, and so something to definitely be proud of. Here closer to home, we finally got a outcome on the Chief Justice race. Paul Newby has won that race. Cheryl Beasley did finally concede over the weekend to Paul Newby. He'll be the next Chief Justice, which means Republicans would have won all the appellate court races, judicial appellate court races, and they now have 3 seats on the state Supreme Court. So that's going to be interesting. I think you're going to see a lot of different issues coming up around voter ID. There's been a lot of what we call judicial activism over the last several years. We think that's going to calm down quite a bit with Republicans taking more seats. But I've got Mitch Koka coming from John Locke Foundation. He's their senior political analyst. He'll be locking in tomorrow at 6:00, and we'll be talking all things North Carolina politics. So if you want to learn more about what's happening here with North Carolina politics and what could happen with the voter ID law, now that we have some judicial changes, lock in with us tomorrow at 6:00. Mitch Koka, their senior policy analyst from John Locke Foundation, will be joining us. Also want to remind you, before we kick into the main discussion, don't forget, this conversation is being sponsored by Angela Harriet over at Keller Williams. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, I want you to give Angela Harriet a call. Also, make sure you go find Angela Harriet. Look for Angela Harriet Properties on Facebook. Follow her Facebook page. She is always sharing some great tips. Make sure you sign up for the email list so you can stay and engage with her. And it's the holiday season, and Angela is giving away a free holiday meal for up to 6 people. All you have to do is go to her Facebook page, you text to enter, you'll get on a list, and you could win a holiday meal for up to 6 people. So again, make sure you support my friends, support the people who are supporting us, and that's Angela Harriet over at Keller Williams. All right, you guys, y'all are locked in. I'm locked in. My good friend BJ Murphy is back with us. He's locked in. BJ, how's it going, man?
Hey, brother, it's good. Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, early Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Already a Merry Christmas for you, man. I see you're out there hustling, and you're not letting COVID or the holiday season slow you down. I want my audience to know that you were talking to the Rupert Murdoch of digital media here in North Carolina. But now, all jokes aside, man, BJ I'm running out of titles for the guy. He's the former mayor of Kinston. He's the CEO of Magic Mile Media. He's the publisher of Neuse and North Carolina News Network. And now, drum roll, he just acquired the North Carolina Political News, man. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. Regardless of COVID, it's been a great year for our business. We have found ways to enjoy that entrepreneurial spirit and try to figure out ways to earn an honest living, even during such a rough time as it is. And this last acquisition, the first time I've acquired a business, was a lot of fun. But I got to say a big special thank you to Frank Williams out of Brunswick County, who helped make that possible. He reached out to me, seeing what we had done with Neuse, and it really just helped propel us about a year or two ahead of where I wanted to be, and we've got a lot of good things happening.
Yeah, man. No, I know you and I had talked offline quite a bit about it. This is something that you've been working on for a good part of this year, and the vision around it stretches even much longer than that. I share that with my audience because so often they may see things that you do, or they see things that I do, and they say, "My God, Algenon just has the Midas touch. Everything he touches just sort of works out." What they don't know is that I've actually messed that up probably 15 times. and the time that you saw and read about in the newspaper was the 16th time that I did it, and it just happened to work. So I know you've been working at this all year long, so it's got to feel good to get to the end of the year and be successful.
Yeah, so we started. I did a Facebook Live on my Facebook page about a Saturday a week ago, and I said, look, if not for Hurricane Matthew, which absolutely devastated Eastern North Carolina with its flooding, I would have never started Magic Mile Media. It gave me a chance to become a little bit more self-aware, jotting down what I loved, what I was good at, and take the B2B skill set and apply it to the social media industry for small businesses and organizations. So that's how Magic Mile Media started. And then 2 years later, I lost a mayor's race. I'd served for 2 4-year terms. And because of the extra 20 hours a week, I basically gained. We took the infrastructure of Magic Mile Media, live stream, some social media graphics, those kind of things. And we took that and said, well, let's apply that to the local news industry and create a free newsletter, website, social media engaged platform so that we can tell what's happening in our backyard. And that grew in less than 2 years to over 5,000 daily email subscribers and 150,000 unique website visitors each month just to newsenews.com. And so when Frank Williams reached out to me and said, hey, I've got this ncpoliticalnews.com, but it's got a couple thousand subscribers. It's got a lot of potential. I just don't have the time. It doesn't fit my long-term goals anymore. Would you be interested in acquiring it and then taking it over? And 3 weeks later, the deal was done. We redid the website, redid the logo, redid the newsletter. In fact, yesterday, ncpoliticalnews.com published 14 pieces of content, including actually an op-ed that you wrote about the restaurant industry. And I was really proud to see our little small team of misfits almost putting out 14 pieces of content. That was in addition to what we do for our social media clients, in addition to what we do for our news audience. So I'm really proud of what we've already done so far.
Well, yeah, and if you get a chance, go check out North Carolina Political News just in general. A lot of great content in general. But yes, I did have an op-ed that was published by the North Carolina Political News Network yesterday, and it talks about the 20,000 restaurants across North Carolina that 75% are in jeopardy of closing this winter if we don't see some significant financial aid come their way. But go check out North Carolina Political News. Follow them on Facebook. You can find the article there. I talked a lot about, BJ, all the various digital assets and properties that you've been developing and what you have so far. Help us understand, why did you want to add an additional asset? Why couldn't you do what you wanted to do through an existing avenue that you already had?
I just really feel like the opportunity is there. I mean, look, for example, I was listening to SiriusXM this morning and Fox, and I took a screenshot of this little snap, and I wrote a little blurb, and it was a little shot at Fox, but it was like, I'm listening to see if they really believe that Joe Biden won the Electoral College or not, because, he did. And it was just, and then a friend of mine said, well, they're not as conservative as they used to be. And I said, well, news isn't supposed to be conservative or liberal. It's supposed to just be the news. And then, the whole mantra of we report, you decide. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be done. And so, in our backyard, it is, I don't want an AP subscription for our local news. I don't want pop-up ads because they're annoying. I don't want a subscription fee. I want the small businesses to help support what's going on. And we're going to apply that to ncpoliticalnews.com. We're going to have op-eds from you or John Hood, or press releases from the governor or Josh Stein's office. We're going to do live videos and possibly our own types of NC Spin related type shows eventually. with the whole premise of we're going to try to share the information, give a platform for people to have an honest discussion, and then let people make up their own minds as to how they see it. Again, with free subscription to our daily newsletter, to breaking news text alert, something we'll unveil later, to the no pop-up ads. That's the whole idea. The way I look at it as WRAL meets N&O meets what we've done with Neuse. That's how I see ncpoliticalnews.com being. I think right now we're at 2,000 subscribers. A year from now, we'll be at 10,000. And if I have my way, we'll be at 25,000 2 years from now.
Well, I knowing you'll grow a lot faster than that. He's being modest. Deep down, he's got the real numbers in his head. but all jokes aside, man, you with the assets that you've developed and now acquiring, you've doubled down on a digital type network. You're not doing anything traditional. You're not looking to publish newspapers. Right. Talk to my audience about that. Why such the heavy investment on the digital side?
Well, the people who know me well know that I'm constantly thinking. My brain is constantly moving. And when I wrote down the game plan, the business plan for Neuse, in that game plan, in that business plan was 12 months from when I started it, we were going to have a weekly news, like a weekly news print, just something like a flyer or newsletter, something. We were going to actually print something. And it was 3 months into us launching Neuse a couple of years ago that Hurricane Florence came through in some of our area, and Jones County got hit really hard. And some of my correspondents were cut off because of the flooding. And so I had my team go out in the field, and because I had served as mayor, I knew some of the things that people wanted to know when it was flooding. And so I had video everywhere. And it was during that time I said, by the time people read something, whether it's a weekly or a daily, by the time they read it in their face on a piece of paper or a magazine article, it was 2 days old. And that if we actually did the exact opposite and invested in video equipment and a studio, that we could actually tell the stories more quickly, but more importantly, to be accurate about it. Just over my shoulder, you see this glass window there. I've got a whole studio back there where we broadcasted the election night results for about 4 hours on November 3rd, and local stuff, state and national stuff. And that's where I think that video, text messaging, the newsletters is where media is, because this is where people's attention is on these little cell phone devices. That's where we got to double down and want it to be done for free. So our NC Political newsletter is free. Our Neuse newsletter, our text messaging service, everything we do is free to the consumers.
Free and no spin. So if you're just now joining us, you are locked in. I'm Algenon Cash. I'm your host. You're listening to BJ Murphy. BJ is the CEO of Magic Mile Media, also the publisher of Neuse, North Carolina News Network, and his newest digital asset is NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com, which I'm encouraging my audience to go find on Twitter, Facebook. Go find the website. Make sure you sign up for the daily updates. I do have an op-ed that was published on NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com yesterday. BJ, you talked about the investment that you've made, and also for my audience, if you have any questions, because I see several people out there listening in. If you have any questions or comments for BJ, leave them in the chat section. I'll see them and grab them and try to work them into our conversation. You talked about the investment that you made in developing your studio, right? Your competitor has already had a pretty big jump on the game. I'm sure the local television station in your area had a fully developed studio with cameras and all these other kind of things. What's been the competitive reaction to some of what you're doing down in Eastern North Carolina?
Well, since we're never going to, I don't see our vision as being on cable news. It's just not something that I really want to be in. As long as I have different mediums like YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, live streaming through Vimeo, that's where we'll be. But I don't think they really worry about me. I probably haven't hurt their bottom line at all. Maybe in capturing people's attention I have to some degree, but not enough to really hurt their financial. I will tell you our most local competitor, the local print product, they they're a corporately owned company. So over the years, have you seen newspapers, Algenon? Something I know you studied, because I know you've had some affiliations with some local news industry there in the Triad, that the corporately owned newspapers, they're going to more of a regional paper. It's less local news. It's more AP news. So the top of the fold, the 2 or 3 stories they can get the top of the fold, a lot of times it has nothing to do with the backyard. Those kind of things frustrate readers, and that's why we said we were going to double down on trying to tell local news content. So that's kind of what we've done. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a labor of love. But I think what you said earlier is no spin. It's just report the news, hold leaders accountable. Yesterday, let me switch subject real quick. Yesterday, and this is about local news, we had Governor Cooper issued this kind of letter to cities and counties about imposing civil penalties, right? Well, that was a big news item yesterday. So we started reaching out to local folks here, local elected officials, and some of the politically correct answers absolutely drove me bonkers. I mean, some people hiding behind their professional staff, like a manager or somebody, or let me get back to you. And I'm like, I went on the sidewalk with my Facebook Live and my camera, and I said, look, I'm on the sidewalk without a mask in front of my office. Do I get a civil penalty for that? Yes or no? That is not, I need to get back to you. It's, do you believe I should get fined for wearing or not wearing a mask? It's a simple question. And I think our leaders, I think the people deserve leaders, not just politics. I mean, they're all politicians, but not just, they need servant leaders who are willing to stand in the gap and be the conduit between the people and the government and the people, and not try to give politically correct answers on subjects that are most important to us in our backyard.
Well, with that said, when you think about NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com, your newest asset, give us a little bit of an insight. What do you see the theme or the direction of NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com? Is it more political commentary? Is it providing political insight and education around politics? Is it more like insider information, things I wouldn't know just from picking up the regular newspaper? Or is it just some combination of all those things?
Yeah, I really think the combination, because the right now we're in the infancy of wrapping our head around the product and the news feeds, the RSS feeds, the press releases that we're getting in our inbox on a daily basis. And we'll take that and we'll chomp it up and say, okay, what do the people really want to know about? What's going to help them have a more productive day? What's going to help us become more productive citizens? Is it something that the casino issues with the Indian organizations? Is it about a sales tax issue on a local issue? Is it about COVID-19 and the governor's executive orders? It seems like endless executive orders. I mean, what do people really want to know? How does it help them? And over time, we'll refine that strategy. But the bottom line is it will always be free. It will have some opinion. It will have some press releases, and it will have some original content. And then we'll take that via our LinkedIn, our Facebook, our Instagram, our website, and our free newsletter, and we'll distribute that so that when you're on your phone, you're on your device, or in front of your computer, and you need some information, ncpoliticalnews.com is going to have that for you there. The more advertisers we get, the more resources I'll be able to pour into that to make it better, so that we can then really compete with some of these other large institutions.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, as you continue to grow it, you can add more personnel and more resources to be able to maybe get those inside scoops and that breaking news before even the traditional media may get it. Because I tell you, I mean, I'm a political junkie, and so I'm always talking to friends. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to different people. I'm trying to get the inside track. So we all want that information. We want to know what's going on. It's like the governor may have an announcement at 2:00, but at 9 a.m. you still want to know what he's going to say 5 hours in advance.
I am texting folks by 11 going, hey, do you know what's going on?
Yeah, so I think there's a real open lane here in North Carolina for almost a Politico type property that sort of gets you that inside scoop before anyone else knows. And I think that could be a real opportunity for NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com. So I'm looking forward to seeing you do that. Now, BJ, there's also you've got competitive pressure from the digital side too. There's an explosion of podcasts and YouTube channels and blogs and newsletters. Anyone with a computer and an iPad can get into the media business.
Right.
How do you protect everything you're doing and the investments you're making in your digital news networks? How do you protect all that from really a very low barrier to entry?
I mean, it's just like any other, like even a landscaper, for example. I mean, the idea of buying a push lawnmower and saying I can cut your grass for $20, versus a guy who's got an enclosed trailer with a $10,000 piece of equipment plus weed eaters and all that. Of course, there's low barriers of entry for this industry. The question will always the answer is always in the quality of the work and the consistency of the work. So my bet is that over a long period of time, we'll continue through the consistency of 5 days a week publishing a quality newsletter to eventually getting into the studio where we're doing live broadcasts for the state of North Carolina, to where we're interviewing some heavy hitters across our state and heck, even across our country as it impacts the state of North Carolina. As we continue to dive into that and go that direction, which is exactly what we've done with Neuse. I mean, everything that I'm talking about, we've already done it on a local level. The only thing I'm doing is scaling up a notch. I think the Bible talks about, if I can entrust you with 10, I can entrust you with 100. And that's what we're doing. We have just been steady plotting and mastering some of the basics of this. And I'm not a news guy. I'm a little bit of a news junkie, but I'm more of a marketer by trade. And so I've had to hire people who I trust, who understand journalism, understand the news industry, and I've had to rely on op-eds and columnists who understand those issues as well. And that's why we'll continue to grow, is just build a solid team around us and just scale up what we've already done. So just wait until the next midterm election. I suspect NC Political News is going to be one of the key players in terms of getting out quality content. And look, if somebody wants to submit something to us, all they got to do is send us an email to info@ncpoliticalnews.com, and we'll get it out there for them.
Hey, if you're just now joining us, you are locked in. I'm your host, Algenon. Also locked in with us today is BJ Murphy, CEO of Magic Mile Media, publisher of the Neuse, as well as North Carolina News Network, and now the owner of NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com. And as always, I'd like to remind you that this episode is being brought to you by Angela Harriet over at Keller Williams. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, I want you to reach out to Angela Harriet. Make sure you take care of her. BJ, I'm getting ready to run out of time. I probably got time for a couple more questions. I'm also interested in hearing more about your advertisers. You're calling on small businesses that oftentimes are a little more familiar with traditional media, not digital.
Right.
What kind of obstacles do you run into there? I mean, in terms of helping them understand how you're really going to get their message out, but not using traditional means.
Well, what's interesting about us is that we kind of are traditional in the sense that most traditional advertising, is the way I look at it, is it's a one-way dialogue. I'm going to give you this message and you're going to read it, right? Social media allows it to be a little bit more of a two-way dialogue. I'm putting out my message and then you're going to comment and I'm going to comment back. So with our newsletter, with our websites, with our special programming, it's more traditional in the sense that there's going to be banner ads in the newsletter, the top and the bottom. There's going to be header and footer and sidebar ads on our website. It's all based on traffic, and we'll continue to grow that traffic. We've got a solid footing with our newsletter already. We're already having 2,000 people. So when you think about that, who is the person that's going to sign up for a daily NC Political newsletter? Is somebody who's an educated person, who cares about the elections, they care about politics, they care about policy. They may be a lobbyist, they may be a state representative. And so when you think about that, if that is your audience, we'll continue to build and grow that list. And so we said we would give 25% off for the first 6 months of the year, just so we can kind of get our footing. And once we get our footing, we'll be able to grow the base. So the people who get in now are going to be a lot better off, down the road, because they'll have locked in some key prices with us. And it's not expensive. It's just the idea of help us underwrite the cost of trying to get out fair and accurate news across the state.
BJ, in addition, we're talking a lot about your news properties, but you've also got Magic Mile Media, where you do a lot of help with helping companies with social media, understanding digital marketing and those kind of things. You and I recently had a conversation. I'm consulting a client. They needed some help with social media. I came to you. You would not give me the friends discount, and told me that my budget wasn't big enough for what you guys do. To some degree, digital marketing has become commoditized, right? Like some people feel like, and I can go call my sister or my daughter to help me get that post on Facebook. But then what you do through Magic Mile Media, you're also going to those same businesses and saying, hey, I can help you get your message out on Facebook. How do you combat the commoditization of digital marketing that's going on right now?
Yeah, so it's just like, if I had a client and their granddaughter, 17, 18, they've grown up with a cell phone attached to their ear and their hand. And so they think that teenager or 20 something understands the psychology of social media. They might understand how to take a selfie, but they may not necessarily know how to step in Algenon's shoes and speak as Algenon to his audience. A much bigger difference in how you approach social media when it comes to an actual brand. And so I have those conversations with business owners all the time about, hey, look, what we do is we get in your shoes, we get in your head, and we figure out what it is your end goal is. And then we do like I said earlier, steady plotting. Social media is not an overnight success. It is not you could always be one video, one piece of content away from being viral, of course. Just look at the guy on TikTok with the cranberry juice, right? So that you could always be one video away, but that's not the way you approach every single day with social media. It is multiple pieces of content every single day, a consistent quality message. It's not mud on the wall. You're thinking through what needs to go out there, and that is how you approach it. It's not a 1 month deal. It's not a 3 month deal. It's a long-term approach to building your brand and then letting that brand have a two-way dialogue with consumers. And that's kind of what we do at Magic Mile Media. So whether that's actually managing client profiles or just doing consulting, we've done some live streaming of events from recitals to parades and stuff. We've done a little bit of everything. It's a lot of fun, but I love that side of it because social media is more about the psychology of what's happening, not necessarily about, do I know how to post a selfie?
Hey, if you're out in my audience and you're listening to this, I would strongly encourage, if you have a small business and you're looking to grow your social media presence, or maybe you're already on social media and it's just not working for you and you need some direction on how to grow your audience or just build a better relationship with your audience, I would encourage you to reach out to BJ Murphy and his team at Magic Mile Media. Now, they are based down in Kinston. I know a lot of my audience may be here in the Triad, or some of you all are even outside of North Carolina, but it's digital. He can do the work from anywhere. He doesn't have to be in your backyard to help you. So make sure you check out Magic Mile Media for some insight and help on your social media. BJ, you mentioned, this is my last question. You mentioned the midterm elections that are coming up in 2022.
Right.
Any early predictions that you want to talk about on who may be in the race or what you see happening?
I'm really interested in this U.S. Senate race here in North Carolina. I know you've already had some major announcements, and we're getting teased on some other ones. So from Warner to Trump to possibly McCrory. Just thinking about those three names in and of itself, like these are big names, and so it's going to be really interesting to watch the next 2 years to see how that jockeying is going to happen. But I will say, going back to your opening, you talked about a peaceful transition of power, and I'm going, the transition hasn't happened yet. So,
I said it's been peaceful up to this point.
Right. Because if I'm not mistaken, it's just been yesterday that Joe Biden has been officially named the president-elect, but Trump still hasn't conceded. I think he needs to take. Chair Beasley did it best. She went through, exhausted all her legal challenges she could, and then she woke up and said, I've done as much as I can. 5.5 million votes. I still only lost by 400, and you know what? But I lost, and I'm going to concede. President Trump needs to do the same, and that would help the peaceful transition of power for our country and be in the best interest of the people. So let's hope he does that.
Yeah, I would like to say I'm a lot more optimistic that that'll happen, but I honestly don't believe it will. I actually think you might even see a competing rally on January 20th, quite frankly.
Wouldn't surprise me.
He may make you choose between what event do you really want to watch.
I'm
And
going to watch the swearing in. I promise you that.
And you know, BJ, you may have some competition coming here soon, man. I keep hearing about Trump TV, and Trump wants to get into the digital space. So, man, you may have some real competition coming out of Mr. Trump once he leaves office here.
All I'm going to say is by the time people have figured out what I've done, it's going to be too late.
I hear that, man. Hey, man, BJ, I always appreciate you locking in with me. It's always a great conversation on air and off air. And so I appreciate you being first a good friend and always sharing insight. And again, congratulations on your recent acquisition of NorthCarolinaPoliticalNews.com. Again, I did have an op-ed that showed up on the website yesterday. You can go check that out. I'm working on a op-ed now that we do believe election 2020 has come to an end. I'm going to be doing some analysis of what happened during the election, what you can expect in Joe Biden's first 100 days. And I'll answer the question, will Trumpism be dead on January 21st? So I want you to look out for that op-ed. That's coming soon. BJ, Brad and Tiffany Smith is out there, and they said accurate and unbiased news reporting is exactly what the people need. Thank you, Neuse for providing this for our community. So you've got some fans out there, and it was a pretty active audience as we were going through the conversation. So I appreciate everyone for locking in with us. Don't forget, tomorrow we've got more North Carolina political news with Mitch Koka, who's a senior policy analyst at John Locke Foundation. He'll be joining us tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Once again, go check out Angela Harriet at Keller Williams. Follow her Facebook page. Don't forget, she's giving away a free holiday meal for 6. All you have to do is go to the page and text to enter. So be sure to do that. And then obviously, until next time, y'all stay locked in. All right, sir, we are good, man.